The 1980s promised kids endless fun with gadgets that felt magical, rebellious, and sometimes just a bit dangerous. But what most of us thought were harmless childhood toys could put you in the back of a police car today. Imagine if you brought an electric prank buzzer to school now. It isn't just a silly gag anymore, it's classified as a weapon under federal law, with hospital burn cases logged in the Midwest as early as 1983. This is 5 childhood nostalgia 80s gadgets that would get you arrested today. And the real shock is just how far toy culture went before the rules changed. Ready to find out what could get you in trouble before we even leave the arcade? Every mall in the 1980s had its own corner of chaos. Prank shops loaded with gadgets that promised instant mischief. The hand buzzer was king. Tucked into the glass case next to fake dog poop and sneezing powder, the Super Jolt had packaging that screamed with lightning bolts and wild cartoon faces. Kids begged for it, parents rolled their eyes, and every arcade seemed to have a kid ready to zap an unsuspecting handshake. According to a 1983 Johnson Smith catalog, the Joy Buzzer was a top seller, described as a shockingly good time. For under $2, you could buy the power to turn any greeting into a jolt of laughter, or a shriek of surprise. Birthday parties, sleepovers, even school hallways, no handshake was safe. The ritual was always the same. Wind up the buzzer, slip it onto your palm, and wait for the perfect victim. The payoff was pure 80s gold. Friends leapt back, teachers scowled, and the whole group would burst out laughing. Some kids even kept score. How many people could you zap before getting caught? Prank culture thrived on these moments. The hand buzzer wasn't just a toy, it was a rite of passage, a secret handshake for the mischief makers of the mall era. What most kids didn't know was that the 80s saw a wave of new models. Some mechanical, some with a real electric jolt. Sam Reynolds, who designed the Super Jolt in 1982, called it a jolt that gets you laughing, not running to the doctor. His notes show tens of thousands sold in just a few years. Back then, nobody thought twice about slipping a shock device into their pocket. In the world of arcade tokens and prank aisles, the only rule was, the bigger the laugh, the better the gadget. Emergency rooms in the Midwest started logging cases in the early 1980s. Blistered fingers, mild burns, even a few kids with heart palpitations after a handshake gone wrong. Dr. Harriet Lane, a pediatric ER physician in 1984, remembered parents insisting, "It's just a toy," as she treated a boy with a small electrical burn on his palm. But the medical records kept piling up. Some of the newer electric buzzers delivered a real jolt, enough to trigger warnings for children with pacemakers or heart conditions. Hospital staff began flagging these gadgets for risk, and safety groups took notice. By the late 1980s, lawmakers stepped in. Federal statutes began to define any device that delivers an electric shock, even at low voltage, as a weapon if brought to school or used in public. State codes followed, adding shock devices to lists of prohibited items. School districts adopted zero-tolerance rules. Bring a hand buzzer, face suspension, or a police referral. Under certain statutes, even novelty shockers could be classified as dangerous weapons, especially if they caused injury. Imagine walking into a modern classroom with a Super Jolt today. The metal contacts, the concealed spring, the promise of a surprise zap. Security would call it a potential assault device. A prank that once meant playground laughs could now mean a trip to the principal's office, a call to the police, and maybe even criminal charges. The line between joke and weapon isn't just blurry, it's written into the law. And as the next gadget proves, concealed projectiles raise the stakes even higher. Tucked between the magic ink and X-ray specs, the spy pen gun was the crown jewel of every 1980s comic ad. "Writes as a pen, shoots like a secret agent," promised the mail-order catalog, with blocky letters and a cartoon kid in sunglasses. For less than $5, you could order your own piece of James Bond's toolkit, straight from the back pages of Boy's Life or the JCPenney Wishbook. The packaging boasted, "Top secret missions await," and for a generation raised on G.I. Joe and Mission Impossible reruns, that was all it took. Spy pen guns looked perfectly innocent in your pencil case. The magic was hidden inside. With a twist or a click, the spring-loaded barrel snapped to life, launching a plastic dart or metal pellet across the lunch table. Some models even came with tiny paper caps for a little extra bang. Kids traded stories about playground missions, daring escapes, and quick-draw duels behind the gym. It wasn't just a toy, it was a badge of membership in the secret world of espionage, where every hallway was a potential headquarters, and every teacher a possible double agent. The 1980s spy craze ran wild. Saturday mornings were packed with cartoons about covert ops and ninja warriors. Toy aisles overflowed with decoder rings, invisible ink, and spy-tech gear. The pen gun was the ultimate prize, small enough to hide, cool enough to brag about. According to a 1984 comic ad, it was the world's most discreet defense. Every kid wanted one, even if their parents had no clue what was tucked inside their backpack. But behind the fun, the pen gun carried a secret that most kids never considered. In the right hands, it could launch a dart with surprising force, enough to sting, or worse. The packaging rarely mentioned safety. Instead, it played up the thrill. Real firing action. If you brought one to school today, the click of that hidden spring would mean lockdown in minutes, not just a trip to the principal. In the 1980s, it was just another tool for backyard spies. Now, it's the kind of gadget that could land you in real trouble. April 22, 1985 started like any other day in the cafeteria at West Side Middle School. Trays clattered, sneakers squeaked, and the usual lunchroom noise filled the air. Then a single click cut through the chatter. A pen, but not the kind that wrote essays. A plastic dart shot across the table, ricocheting off a milk carton. For a split second, everyone froze. Teachers rushed in, eyes wide, searching for the source. It took only moments for panic to ripple through the room. Someone shouted, "Gun!" Doors slammed. Students ducked under tables. Within minutes, the principal called for a full lockdown. Police cruisers pulled up outside, lights flashing. Officers entered with hands on their holsters, scanning for any sign of a real weapon. The pen gun, confiscated from a 7th grader's backpack, looked harmless until twisted open. Officers examined the spring-loaded barrel and small metal dart, then radioed in the find. According to the Columbus Dispatch, the student was taken to the office for questioning. No one was hurt, but the legal consequences were instant. The case moved to juvenile court, where the judge issued a 6-month probation. The student was barred from returning until the following semester. Ms. Lorraine Pate, the supervising teacher, remembered. It looked like a toy until it fired across the cafeteria. Then it was a threat. Lockdown statistics from the mid-80s showed these events were rare. Today, they're routine. Federal law now classifies disguised projectile devices as dangerous weapons on school grounds, no matter the intent. Zero-tolerance policies leave little room for explanation. If a kid brought a pen gun to class now, police would likely press charges for possession of a weapon, and the school could expel the student on the spot. Imagine the same scene in 2024. A cafeteria lockdown, a SWAT team at the door, parents waiting outside, and a toy pen gun in an evidence bag. Childhood mischief has become criminal record territory. And if you thought a pen gun could cause chaos, wait until the next gadget, one that explodes on impact. Every neighborhood in the 1980s echoed with the sharp crack of cap bombs. The toy aisle at Sears or the back pages of Johnson Smith's catalog showed rows of olive green grenades, each one promising backyard glory. Kids snapped in a roll of paper caps, yanked the pin, and lobbed the plastic shell against the sidewalk, waiting for the satisfying bang that meant victory. These weren't just toys, they were props for epic battles, complete with shouted commands and dramatic dives behind bushes. The louder the explosion, the bigger the bragging rights. Cap grenades looked and felt real. The weight, the metal ring, even the packaging, everything mimicked actual military gear. For a generation raised on action movies and G.I. Joe, that realism was the whole appeal. Parents barely blinked as kids staged full-scale wars in the yard, tossing clusters of cap bombs and sending clouds of smoke drifting over the fence. The only warning was a faint smell of gunpowder and the occasional reminder not to throw them indoors. But the danger was more than noise. Emergency rooms across the country began logging injuries. Burned fingers, eye trauma, and hand lacerations from grenades that shattered on impact. According to CPSC injury reports from 1986 and 1987, more than 200 children ended up in the hospital in just 2 years. Some toys splintered into sharp shards, while others misfired or set off extra loud caps. Hospital staff grew familiar with the story. A backyard battle gone wrong, a rush to the ER, and a parent insisting it was just a toy. The thrill of the explosion came with an invisible risk. What started as harmless fun often ended in a bandaged hand or a warning about losing an eye. And as the injuries piled up, the days of the cap grenade were numbered. In 1987, the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission issued a sweeping recall on toy cap grenades, declaring them, in official language, virtually indistinguishable from real explosive weapons. The CPSC's warning was blunt. These toys looked so much like military grenades that police and bystanders couldn't tell the difference. According to staff reports, more than 200 injuries, burns, eye trauma, lacerations, were linked to cap-style explosives disguised as grenade in the 2 years before the recall. There were at least 7 police standoffs and 1 fatal mistake when officers assumed a child's toy was the real thing. The recall bulletin didn't mince words. The design and coloration of these toys make them a hazard to both police and the public. Retailers were ordered to pull every model from shelves, from the olive green boom bang to the metal cap grenades found in catalog listings. The ban covered imports and domestic toys alike, ending a childhood staple overnight. Not everyone agreed with the decision. Manufacturers pushed back in trade magazines, insisting millions of these toys have been sold with only a small fraction, resulting in injury. One importer argued, the real problem is unsupervised play, madame. These have been safely sold for years, with warning labels clearly visible. But the CPSC held firm. Warnings weren't enough. The risk of confusion, injury, or tragedy was too high. After 1987, toy designers were forced to rethink everything. Bright colors, orange tips, and oversized warning labels became the new rule. Today, bringing anything that even looks like a grenade into a public place is a fast track to a bomb squad response and a police record. The fun had officially crossed the line into forbidden territory. Every playground in the late 1980s had its own secret arsenal, but nothing captured the ninja craze quite like the wrist-mounted dart shooter. Tucked under a sweatshirt sleeve, it promised the kind of stealth attack that only Saturday morning cartoons could dream up. The ads in comic books and holiday catalogs showed masked heroes flicking their wrists, launching foam-tipped darts across the room. According to a 1988 Spencer Gifts catalog, these gadgets sold out every Christmas, with the copy boasting, "Shoots real darts, ninja approved." Frank Pulaski, who handled novelty toy buying for Spencer Gifts, remembered the rush. If a ninja toy had a secret launcher or shot a dart, it outsold everything else that season. Kids would strap on their new gear, slip into the backyard, and stage epic battles, ducking behind bushes, firing at imaginary villains, or ambushing their siblings from behind the couch. Some models came with suction cup tips, others with blunt plastic heads. But the thrill was always the same. The power to surprise concealed right on your arm. The danger, of course, was hidden too. School incident logs from 1988 show at least 12 injuries linked to these dart shooters, mostly black eyes, bruised cheeks, and one unlucky kid who needed stitches after a close-range shot. Teachers confiscated dozens each semester, but the ninja fad kept the demand high. By the late 80s, school administrators started treating any concealed projectile device as a weapon. The rules were clear. Bring one to class, face suspension, and possibly a police report. The lines between toy and weapon blurred in the eyes of the law. Even outside the playground, the consequences followed. In 2005, TSA agents at Chicago O'Hare confiscated a wrist dart shooter from a carry-on bag, noting in their report, "resembles self-defense device." Confiscation followed by advisory warning. What once passed as a harmless gadget for backyard fun now triggers airport security and zero-tolerance policies. Imagine trying to sneak a ninja dart shooter through a metal detector today. One flick of the wrist and you'd be explaining yourself to the authorities. In the 80s, it was just another way to feel like a hero. Now, it's a fast track to detention, or worse. Mall novelty shops in the late 1980s were a magnet for kids looking to feel grown up. Nestled between the rubber chickens and whoopee cushions, cigarette lighter keychains promised a shortcut to cool. These tiny gadgets came shaped like soda cans, animals, even miniature boomboxes, each one with a working flame. For a few bucks, you could walk out of Spencer Gifts with a lighter clipped to your backpack, no questions asked. J.C. Penney's 1990 holiday catalog called them the perfect stocking stuffer, and nobody blinked when a 10-year-old bought one. Lighting up a sneaker, burning a scrap of notebook paper, or just flicking the flame in front of friends? These lighters were props for playground bravado. The line between joke and danger blurred fast. Fire marshals across the country started noticing a pattern. According to national fire incident reports from the late 1980s, hundreds of accidental blazes were traced to kids playing with novelty lighters. Some were shaped like toys, others disguised as pens or keychains, but all had one thing in common: easy ignition, no child safety lock, and a flame hot enough to start a disaster. No single case made headlines in every city, but fire departments kept records. In 1987, the National Association of Fire Marshals issued a warning after a string of house fires linked to novelty lighters, urging parents to keep them away from kids. One fire marshal in Tulsa told reporters, "It looks like a toy, but it burns like the real thing. We've seen too many living rooms go up in smoke." The push for stricter laws followed. By 1988, states began banning sales of lighters to minors and targeting novelty designs that appealed to children. Retailers pulled the flashiest models from shelves, and new regulations required child-resistant features on every lighter sold. Fast forward to today. Bringing a novelty lighter keychain through airport security can cost you more than just embarrassment. TSA rules list all lighters, especially disguised or novelty types, as prohibited items, carrying a maximum civil penalty of $13,910 per violation under federal law. Even a harmless-looking keychain can mean a hefty fine and a long talk with security. The days of flicking a flame for laughs are over. What once made you the coolest kid at the sleepover now lands you in legal trouble before you even reach your gate. By 1987, over 200 injuries from cap grenade toys had triggered a nationwide recall, and by 1988, novelty cigarette lighters were banned for sale to minors in several states following house fires like the July 8th Tulsa blaze. Each gadget we explored, from shocking hand buzzers once sold in Johnson Smith catalogs to wrist-mounted dart launchers seized by the TSA, was celebrated in 80s catalogs but eventually crossed the line from harmless fun to legal hazard. Some files, like the full CPSC injury reports and school disciplinary records, remain restricted or incomplete, leaving open questions about the true reach of these products. Today, federal statutes and state laws make it clear. What was childhood mischief in the 80s is a criminal offense in 2024. According to the 1987 CPSC recall memo, indistinguishable toy weapons can no longer be treated as toys at all. The evidence shows the 80s were a unique moment, one unlikely to return as safety and law have replaced wild creativity in the toy aisle.